Hello and welcome to another QWeb live stream. I'm Leland ATB, and this time we're not in a game. We are just in the desktop of macOS Sierra version 10.12.6, and then we're going to give you a brief review of macOS Sierra. It's not a full review, it's just picking on a couple of my favorite features about it, features of it rather. And first of all, Happy New Year to everyone. And so I'll also give a brief overview of Hackintosh, what that means, how you can do it for yourself. But we'll start with the brief review. So macOS Sierra is not the latest version of macOS. It is actually the outgoing version, because the latest version is called High Sierra. But because I've read some bad reviews of High Sierra on like the Tony Mac X86 forum and other forums, so I'm just holding off on updating at the moment. So, what are some of the new features of Sierra? Well, I think the biggest new feature is Siri. So you can access Siri by clicking up here on this little icon. You can also click on your dock on this icon here. And the last way is you can also have a shortcut set up, and so to do that you go to System Preferences, Siri, and then keyboard shortcut. The default is hold Command Space. So if you just hold Command Space, up she pops. What time is it?
It's 1:39 p.m.
As you can see, it works as it would on a phone. You can ask it more complicated things like, who is the Prime Minister of Britain?
It's Theresa May.
How old is she?
Theresa May is 62.
So you can also do follow-on questions like that. Who is the President of Kenya?
It's Uhuru Kenyatta.
Its pronunciation of non-English names is a bit off. What's the weather like in Hong Kong?
I don't know where you are.
It didn't.
Please turn on Wi-Fi,
'Cause I'm
which will allow me to find your location.
Because I'm using Ethernet, it's not working with the location. What time is it in London? It
At
didn't
the top,
quite hear me.
the time will...
What time is it in London?
The time in London, England is 10:40 a.m.
Okay, so Siri is one of those features that's new in macOS Sierra. One of the more interesting things you can do with it is set up appointments, but you've probably watched videos about Siri, but I'll do a brief appointment. Okay. New appointment.
Sure thing. What's the date and time of this appointment?
Tomorrow at 8 a.m.
Okay, I set up your appointment for tomorrow. Shall I schedule it?
Change the title.
Okay, Michael, what would you like to call this meeting?
Set up new live stream.
Okay, I set up your appointment for tomorrow. Shall I schedule it?
It didn't hear what I said at all.
Okay, I set up your appointment for tomorrow. Shall I schedule it?
No.
To continue, you can confirm, cancel, change the time, or change the title.
Cancel.
Alright, Michael, I'll leave it off your calendar.
Okay, so that's Siri. The other major feature that came with Sierra isn't the notifications bar. It is, in fact, if you go to System Preferences and Displays, you'll find this new night shift feature. And what this does, I don't know if it will show up on the live stream. I'll just turn it on. Hopefully it's working through the stream. You can see that it's warmed up the colors. So it says night shift automatically shifts the colors of your display to the warmer end of the color spectrum after dark. This may help you get a better night's sleep. It's basically like a built-in version of apps like f.lux, or however you pronounce that. When the current Windows 10's also got a similar feature. So it's becoming more common for operating systems to have a built-in feature. I think the latest versions of Android have it as well, that just tones down the blueness of the display that's said to give you a better night's sleep. So that's another good feature of Sierra. Another feature of Sierra that I quite like is if you go to YouTube and you start a video, what you can do is right click twice on the video. So you see if you right click once, you'll get the normal YouTube context menu. If you do it a second time, you'll get this other context menu from, only works in Safari in Sierra. Then you can enter picture in picture, close your browser, continue doing what you're doing. Let's say you wanted to play a full screen game. Actually, I've not tested it in a full screen game, but we'll see if it works. Okay, so it doesn't work in a full screen game. But if you wanted to do just like maybe some work in Word, so you open up Word, see on your desktop you've got this, you can move it over here, it can be anchored to any of the corners. I normally have it up here, but down there is also quite good. And so you can just have your, sorry, the computer's quite slow. Let's see something that's already open. Oh, Word's opened up now. But let's continue with Chrome, for instance. If you wanted Chrome full screen, do a bit of browsing, you've got your YouTube in the corner, you can pause it, you can restart it. So I think that's quite a good feature. Let's just stop that. So, what is Hackintoshing? Because I said this is going to be a brief review. Those are the 3 features I've picked on. There are lots of other new features in Sierra, but I'm not going to cover those because most of them to do with continuing on other Apple devices. At the moment, this is the only quote Apple device I've got. It's technically not really an Apple device, but it's running Apple software, so yeah. So there's not much point in me going through the features that I can't actually show you because I don't have like an iPhone or an iPad to show you how you can start on one device and continue on another. So what is Hackintoshing? Well, Hackintosh is when you install macOS Mac being short for Macintosh, hence Hackintosh, because you are in effect hacking it. Not hacking in the sense of accessing someone else's information, but in the sense of modifying something that's been a piece of code, piece of software that's been created. So, what it is if you have, for example, like I have a HP G5000 series, it's a reasonably old computer now, it's from 2012, so it's not the fastest, but it's okay. I upgraded the graphics card to a GTX 650 Ti, upgraded the RAM to 8 gig, so if you have a normal PC like a HP or a Samsung or whatever, and you want to run macOS because either there's some software that you want to specifically run, like you like to use Logic Pro for making remixes and Final Cut Pro for video editing, so you can't get those pieces of software on Windows or Linux because they're made by Apple for Apple devices, for Apple's operating system. So the only solution is 1, buy a Mac, 2, Hackintosh. Those are your two solutions. There's no other solutions for it. Okay, you can use a virtual machine, but the performance won't be as good unless you have a very powerful machine to start with, and some of the graphics might not work as well on a virtual machine as they would on running natively. And if you're going to do video editing or even audio editing to some extent, but mostly video editing, it needs the full capacity of the CPU and the GPU, and you're not going to get that with a virtual machine. A virtual machine is when you run one operating system within another. Maybe I'll go do an overview of virtual machines in a different video, but this time we're dealing with Hackintosh. So basically what it is you take your normal Windows machine and you either need a separate hard drive, to make it easier you need a separate hard drive that you'll use for macOS. So you can see if we open disk utility, I've got a couple of hard drives. I've got this WDC, which is a Western Digital hard drive, and this Marshall hard drive. So this one's for Windows, this one's for macOS and storage. So that's my external Samsung portable SSD T1. So yeah, it's much easier if you have two separate drives. And what you'd need to do is get yourself a copy of a copy of macOS. There are various different methods, but the method I personally used is I started with Naresh's Yosemite, aka Yosemite Zone. So what I did is I downloaded that. So you just go to this website, the link's in the description. You can do it on your Windows PC, and you download it. The file you'll download is a torrent file, so you'll open it with BitTorrent after unzipping it. I might do a full tutorial in another video, but I'm just doing a brief overview. So what you do is once you've downloaded that, you'd need this software. I think there's a link here actually. You'd need this. software called Transmac. Oh, it's included in the download, I think it says. Yeah, it's included. Where is it? It's included in the download, I think. But yeah, so you'd get this software called Transmac, and you'd use that to restore the DMG file, the image file, to your USB drive, and then you'd use that to install. But first of all, you'd want to make sure that your hardware is compatible. So you'd go to just Google HCL, which stands for Hardware Compatibility List, and well, as I said, I used Yosemite, then I used the App Store to upgrade it to Sierra, but there is this file in this link that's also in the description that you can go straight to Sierra, which is probably the best way to do it. But to make sure that your computer is compatible, they've put this here, and there's also, you can Google HCL 10.12.6 and compare your hardware. Click on this link and you just check for your motherboard, your graphics card. Those are the main things, in your CPU. Those are the main things you'd want to make sure are compatible. But it's also got this list here, which basically tells you it needs a CPU with SSE 4.1 support. Your best bet is an Intel CPU because that's what real Macs use. AMD, you'll have to do a bit more work if you've got an AMD processor. So it's got to be after 2011. I'm just within that with mine, 2012. You need an existing computer, obviously. I mean, you need to be running Windows at least, or Linux on your computer before you can start doing this, because you can't obviously make a bootable USB drive without having a computer. So you'll need an empty hard drive, you'll need to download the Sierra Zone, empty USB drive, Transmac. You can get a free 15-day trial for that, which should be enough to write it to your USB, and restore Sierra PKG. If you're using a Mac or another Hackintosh to set it up, you'll use that instead of Transmac. And then you can follow these instructions. If you click in the link that's in the description, it's this page, and you click on Sierra is compatible here, it'll bring you to this page. So that's basically what Hackintosh is about. I'll go through briefly the specs in my machine. They're not very impressive, but as I say, it does most of what I need to do, but it's majorly in time for upgrading, but at least it's not horrible. So I've got the system definition set up as an iMac, because that's iMac 27-inch late 2012, because that's the closest to my system. So the CPU is an Intel Core i3. It's the i3-2100, 3.09 or 3.1 gigahertz, 8 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. I'm not quite sure if it's quoting the right speed. I think it might be a bit faster or a bit slower than that, can't remember. Yeah, the startup disk, that's just the name of the partition. Graphics is NVIDIA GeForce GTX 650 Ti. It's 1 gigabyte or 1023.24 MB. It's an okay graphics card. It can run most older games on low settings. Well, the older games, like older than 2012 games, it can run at full settings, of course. Games from about 2012 to 2014, depends on how demanding the game is, whether I can run it at full settings or not. Games from 2015 onwards, it struggles with. As I say, I'll probably need to upgrade very soon. But yeah, that's an overview of my spec on macOS. What's on my Hackintosh, my Mac? Whatever you want to call it, well, just your standard software. Then I've got Office 2016, VLC, GarageBand, of course, Bible Study, Steam. Not installed any of the games yet. Got a few Solitaire and other board game type stuff. Maybe Speaking Teachers Typing, because I want to type faster. Logic Pro and Final Cut Pro. OBS, which is the software I'm using to stream. This is the first stream I've made using OBS, so I hope it's good. I've been using NVIDIA GeForce Experience for the game streams, but I'm kind of getting tired of it because it keeps crashing and it doesn't have many options. Okay, the best thing about it is I can set the title from within the app, but it doesn't have a place for setting the description, and the number of times I've started a stream and it's cancelled it just says this broadcast has failed. It doesn't give a reason. So OBS has much more features. It lets me have the live chat showing. Unfortunately, I don't have a way of seeing the chat unless I open up my browser to see the chat during the stream. So yeah, well, I will look into options for fixing that. I'll probably get some way of sorting that out. Probably get a smartphone and use that for the chat. But yeah, so hope you've enjoyed this stream. There will be more streams like this that aren't about games. There will be gaming streams from macOS so that you can see what kind of games you can play on this operating system and how they perform. But for now, it's bye-bye from me. Again, Happy New Year to everyone watching, whether you're watching this live or you're watching it as a recording. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.